Okay, hello everyone, and thanks for coming for this very special event of the Android Budapest meetup. Instead of the usual presentations and talks, we prepared for a roundtable style discussion with some very special guests. This will be more casual, and we will touch more of the topics of how different companies handle different interesting situations and what design decisions they make, how they make them, how they learn, and how they mentor junior developers. Okay, first, let me thank you, our current sponsors. Yes, so I'm sure everyone heard about Skyscanner. They are the go-to travel and flight search site and flight search solution for almost all of us. More than 80 million people use their site and the mobile applications to book flights, hotels, and car rentals. We can thank them for the deep meals and French fries you can find in the corner. They are currently actually hiring, so if you are interested, head over to, well, they gave me an URL, but I will not be afraid to read out loud, but you will of course be able to find it at the meetup page. So www.skyscanner.net/jobs/current jobs/?location it was Budapest. So yeah. On the other hand, Bitrise is also a very fine company. They provide Android, iOS, and cross-platform mobile continuous integration and delivery solutions. So they are a Hungarian startup with offices in both Budapest and London. Thanks to them for the drinks today. If you would like to build, test, and deploy with ease or work in another awesome company, you can head over to bitrise.io or careers.bitrise.io, a bit shorter URL. Okay, let's get to the conversation. We will have two parts. The first will focus more on methodologies, and the other on technologies and more on software development in general. Each part will be 35-40 minutes long. We will have a short break between them. You can use it to network, and also you can network at the end. We will stay for sure. We prepared some interesting questions ourselves, but please do ask other questions if come up. Just raise your hand and ask a question. Yes. So let me introduce the panelists. Our first guest comes from an agency headquartered in Budapest, but they also have a London office. They make several high-impact mobile applications, and will continue to do so for sure. The guest himself is a lead Android developer and an avid open source contributor. He contributes even to the Android framework and also the maintainer of the Android annotations library. Please give a warm welcome to Csaba Kozák from Supercharge. Okay, shifting gears, the next panelist comes from company. A company from. Sorry, I switched up the panelists, but. Yes, so a company operating on a truly large scale. You know it from as one of our sponsors. They are a true product company, and our guest enjoys doing enablement-related tasks that impact the whole application, and also architectural changes and introducing new technologies. He develops mainly for Android, but also for iOS and their backend services. So please welcome Bence Nagy from Skyscanner. Yes, the next guest comes from a completely different environment, from a rising star of a startup. They successfully had an Indiegogo campaign, and then for their smart gate and garage door opening solution consisting of both a custom hardware and an application. He develops for both iOS and Android, but mainly in React Native, and he also touches embedded software for the product. Please give it up for Bence Nagy from Remote.io. Yes, last but definitely not least, we also invited an experienced freelancer developer. He has more than 50 successful applications under his belt. Really values freedom and always seeks out the best technologies which can be used to solve interesting and complicated problems by also maintaining good architecture. Don't hold your claps back from Laszlo Krasnyanski while he comes up to the stage. Yeah, so I already said that we will have two topics, and the first one is very interesting to me personally, because when I started my career, I always wondered what the different company environments are, and what are the strengths and advantages and both disadvantages of working for example, an agency, product company, or a startup. And even last time when I received my current job, it was an interesting topic. So we will talk about that. Let's get right into it. And don't forget that you can always ask your questions if you would like, and also the hangmans can hang the other hangman, so you can ask questions from the other panelists as well. So, first question. It is fundamentally different to work for an agency type company, or a product company, or a startup, or work as a freelancer. In the opening question, I would like to ask about the environment and what are the main differences. What do you think the main difference is? First, I would like to ask Csaba from Supercharge. As far as I know, at the agency, the typical aim is to build teams which teams can adapt to the different kind of projects as fast as you can. How do you achieve that?
So basically, I don't think we try to train very adaptive teams. So basically, we are assign people to the projects. We always try to find different kind of scenario delivers. So always there is a tech lead on the project who is responsible for the technology part for that platform he or she is working on, and also some media level and also junior level developers. Sorry, and yeah, there is a crucial part of the handover from business or UX to the developers. So it is, I think at that point we have to pay very much attention that everybody gets the domain of the project. And yes, it is sometimes hard that you have to switch between different domains, but we try to not confuse people and not do so much context switching. So I think at least on an average in half a year you stay on one project, so you get familiar with the domain and you don't have to context switch all the time. And also we try to do bigger teams, so you don't work by yourself, so you can get to know the project better from your peers.
How big of the teams you are talking about?
So currently our biggest teams are 6 people on one platform. So that's the biggest, and also, as I just said, 2 people are the smallest.
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting contest to ask Bence from Skyscanner. How do you do this? How do you build teams?
Yeah, so Skyscanner works in a squad tribe system, which means you have squads, which are, you can think of them as like mini startups. They have designers, they have product people, they have marketing people, and of course many engineers. And of course they contain some sort of, or some level of seniority. You have senior engineers and junior engineers, you have media engineers. And squads can have goals which can be very specific from a tribe point of view. A tribe is a collection of squads which try to solve the same higher level problem, which in my case is phone experience. So everything that's coming from so people who are opening the website on mobile and web, and of course people who are opening the app. And yeah, so for example, my specific goal is, or our squad specific goal is to increase retention through onboarding people and through continuous education. And yeah.
Yeah, and what do you think the main differences between an agency or a product company? And you can join too from Timothy or Bence if you like. So what's the main difference between a product-focused company and an agency, in your opinion?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, of course, I think our case is a little bit different, because I have to say it up front that currently we are 2 people. like the whole company. So so you can guess the size, and therefore we don't have like a crazy architecture. Like we can grab as many titles as we want, as long as the other person hasn't grabbed it yet. So yeah, so we are a product company. We manufacture an IoT device and the related apps and cloud services. And so in our case, the goal primarily was a very fast time to market, because we really didn't have a lot of runway to do that. And we just basically split the tasks as effectively as possible. So as a result of that, actually for development, software development, it's kind of me, like not completely, but like 90%. So in our case, it's a little bit different for now.
For the other guys, what do you think the main difference is between an agency or a product company?
So, as I said, I'm an agency guy, but I see that in an agency you have to work on different projects, and sometimes you cannot focus for so much time on so small things, and you have to keep the budget and the deadlines in check. That's also applies to the products, but still, product companies, you work on one product basically for a very long time. You get it on very, very well, but please confirm that.
No, I mostly agree. I just wanted to add that, of course, as Skyscanner, teams can have projects as well, and they have a deadline, but I wouldn't say it's that, like we don't have real hard deadlines. All of them are internal deadlines, and we point the deadlines ourselves. And if we don't reach it, then it's ourselves to blame. But still, you have to communicate this to upper management and whatnot. Yeah, but obviously all of the goals, or all of the project's goals, is to make the product better.
I see. Yeah, and Laszlo, how do you work? What are your priorities? What are your measurements, or how do you split up the work you have to do?
Yeah, actually, I'm an agency with one developer. I guess this is the best and the worst part of this life, because the best, because I don't work with other developers. I am the lead developer, I am the CTO and every other title.
You can also grab any title you
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
As long the other.
And nobody cares about the Git commit messages, or there are no restriction to the tool stack that I'm
Do you
using.
do code reviews?
No. Actually, I am doing a pull request, but it's another thing. No, I don't use CI, but this is another question. So I guess this is really good, because no pressure, and you can use what you want. You can try new technologies. So I have a lot of small projects, which is usually something shit. So you don't need to expect something big and you will change the world. No, you should add a new language to the existing application or something, but you can earn a lot of money. So.
But on the other hand, your own living and livelihood is on the line. So I think there is pressure. How do you handle that?
Yeah, this is another question. But yeah, it's a hard part, because when you are working at a company, there are bosses who are communicating with the client, and they are giving a price to the application. When you are working alone and you are a freelancer, when you say this project will cost X forint or something, and you calculate something wrong, you will. Yeah, this is the bad part, and another bad part that you are alone. So this is a good one, but when you are, I am at home alone and I'm working, and nobody changed the music on the radio. Yeah, so sometimes I want to talk with somebody about this problem or this new technology, but there is Reddit and Twitter, so I saw.
And also meetups.
Yeah.
Yeah, so next question. Okay, when anyone releases an app to Android, there's one authority you cannot circumvent, actually, Google with its Play Store and the Play Store review. the review process and requirements and rules are changing quite frequently. And how do you deal with it? Were there particular instances when they outright refused, for example, publishing one of your updates or applications, or you had to talk to them? First, I would like to ask Laszlo and Bence from Relutio, so what's your experience actually?
Okay, so as we only have like one app for Android, it's not too much of a portfolio to select from, but it's connected to a hardware. So first time we submitted, it was a little bit tricky because we didn't want to send our sample to Google for them to test, because our sample was like half ready. So what we did is like we made a video of how it operates and the screen recording and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and we also added a feature into the app where you can simulate, like as if you had a real device, how would the UI change? And they were very happy with that, so we passed it for the first time. Since then, I think it's been so far it's been a pleasant experience with Google Play reviews. I'd say the iOS reviews are worse in my experience. So.
Laszlo, how do you deal with it yourself?
There are two types of my clients. A few of my clients are software developer companies because they haven't enough resource to develop a new mobile application or something. In this case, I just develop the application, push the code base to their Git, and that's it. I don't handle the publishing.
So you never handle the publishing side?
No. On the other side, if the client is not a software developer company, usually they ask, can we use your developer account? No, you can't, because I have a developer account. In Android is unnecessary, and I don't pay, I don't know, $100 for the Apple. So I haven't a developer account. In this case, I usually get access to their account, and in this case I will upload the APK, or usually I need to talk with the designer. I want a promo graphic, I want an icon with its size. It's hard, but most of my projects are, I don't know the word, single shot projects. So I get a specification, I create the application, we upload or they upload, and that's it. I never talk again with this application.
I guess it's quite different for a big product company. How do you handle it with Supercharge? Or do you touch the publishing side or the other things?
We are an agency, but yes.
Yeah, sorry.
So it's basically the same as last one. So sometimes we are dealing with it ourselves, and sometimes the client does it. I try to answer the second part of the question because I think it's most interesting. That yes, sometimes the reviews are uploaded. One case when you have to upload an app which has a user account login, and they have to try it out. They must try it out. And sometimes we are doing the mobile banks, and they have to provide the real user accounts so they can pay real money. That's quite interesting. The other one is that when we did some white label apps and we uploaded them onto different Google-based accounts, they refused that because they believe that we basically one account stole the code from the other one, and this is just a fake copy. And we have to write down a paper by a lawyer that this is us, please allow this. So sometimes tricky things can come down in upload.
Yeah, they actually made it more strict in 1 or 2 years, right, for white label applications?
I think so. So basically you cannot do this only if you really have a good reason to do so.
And were there any time you have to talk with the review team? Or?
Not myself, but I think that was the case. Yeah, that reviewer could not process through the flow, and they had us questions.
And that's it for a true product company. That's gonna.
So
do you deal with this kind of stuff yourself?
No, we have a dedicated team who manages the releases every week for both platforms. So we release bi-weekly, 1 week Android, 1 week iOS, and so on.
Is it a different squad, or how do you handle
Yes, a completely different squad dedicated to release management and also handling the CI pipeline for the apps. And yeah, so from my side, I don't really get in touch with the Google Play Store and how they restrict. I think this is more of a problem on the iOS side, so second to that on Benza said.
Yeah. And actually, it's an interesting part of what you mentioned, the CI part. And do you use workflows to handle it, or what kind of tools?
I think so we use Jenkins, and I think we have a dedicated pipeline for just for the release.
Mm-hmm. And how do you do the updates? Do you schedule them, or?
So we release, as I said, bi-weekly on Android, and it's like there's code freeze on the developer master branch on Wednesday evening, and then if we give teams the opportunity to do RC fixes when they feel something is not right quite with this release. That happens from time to time. Also, we have to handle hot fixes, and we have basically separate pipelines for those.
Okay, any questions from the audience? No? Then moving on. As a developer, I think you can never stop learning. So technologies evolve every day, and you need to adopt it and find some time to learn the new stuff. How do you spend your time, and how do you mentor juniors if you have? It's more for a question for the guys at the far end, but you can talk about how you mentor yourself, and how do you find the time? Anyone can start.
I can start.
Yeah.
So I personally use Twitter for learning. I follow a lot of significant people in the industry, and most of those hopefully don't talk about politics all the time. So therefore I can get into, or this way I can see significant articles or good or valuable articles right away. Also Reddit. I use Reddit a lot, and I sign up or subscribe to many like Android channel, Kotlin channel, whatnot. And it's a great way, to mix your feed that consists of what you're interested in, music, games, whatnot, and also mix in some technical stuff, and therefore you implicitly learn new stuff, and you don't have to pay attention, and you don't have to feel that this is mandatory and you have to learn. But at Skyscanner, it's really in our culture to learn, so we have a principle that says master, teach, learn, and we try to hire people with that kind of attitude. So we have a really strong culture interview, for example, and mentorship is of course a huge part in that. I think if you want to become like a senior engineer, you actually have to come up with really concrete examples that you have mentored someone and they became better in the process.
So for personal learning, I double tutor. It's the best tool, I think. For learning at the company, we also have a mentoring system at Supercharge. Basically, if you join the company, you have an assigned mentor for at least half a year, and he or she will, set up goals and track your process or proceedings. Also, we have a dedicated Android Slack channel, and basically everything that is interesting at Android is posted into it, so you can learn if you don't like Twitter. And also we have monthly workshops, at least monthly workshops. Always different developers are preparing interesting talk, and they share the knowledge, basically gained from projects or other areas with the whole team. And also this applies for junior or medium level developers, not just tech leads or senior developers.
Benza?
Yeah. So for us, we would love to learn a lot. We don't really have the time at the moment, but we do check Reddit here and there. And actually, since we only have one product, and we've released it not a long time ago. Now we are looking into new technologies, actually, what to do for the next product, or how to rewrite some of our code that kind of. And so I think it's a little bit tricky to learn, really. I really would like to spend more time learning, but we keep on doing administrative stuff and other things than programming. And it would probably be much better if we could grow by 1 or 2 people.
Are you planning on it?
Yeah.
Okay. Laszlo, how do you find time to learn new stuff?
Yeah,
You
it's,
already talked about that you like to choose the best tool.
it's really similar here because I'm using Reddit. I can suggest to everyone the Android Dev and Kotlin subreddit because there are a lot of great discussions. And it's hard to filter the trash content because every day has at least 5 posts about I'm a beginner Android developer, where should I start learning, or Kotlin or Java, but I don't know what they are talking. So, but this is a really good source, and yeah, I'm using Twitter, but I just follow only a few people which are Android stars or Android developer stars, and they are.
Can you give some examples?
Yes, Jake Clark.
Others?
I don't know. No, he's one of the best, but sometimes I feel he's too deep for me because he's talking about, I don't know, the bytecode, and I don't care the bytecode. So, but there are a lot of good articles on this, and there are 2 other sources that I'm using: the Android Weekly and Kotlin Weekly newsletters. So every Sunday are coming these 2 emails, and it contains really good articles. So I can suggest for you this. And I don't work with juniors, and I don't like juniors. So.
I found actually that recently the trend is on Twitter is that every other day declare some kind of technologies or methods as an anti-pattern. I don't know if you found those posts, but
Yeah.
what do you think about them? I mean, do you have these kind of harsh ideas? Or?
People is a good place to argue with people. You don't know, so it's just natural that it happens, I think. But you have to choose what's right for you and what's right for others.
I think that's a very important point because there's no silver bullet. We always talk about this, but we sometimes fall into the trap of thinking about kind of technology that will solve every problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, one more thing I'm curious about. Do you do presentations?
Inside or outside the company?
Both.
Yeah, mostly inside the company.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, like a few months ago, was my first meetup talk, so
Mm-hmm.
and also the last so far. It's the second one.
Okay. Others? Do you do presentations, or do you plan to?
Not really. I had a few at my previous company where I worked, but no.
Mm-hmm.
Outside the company, like we don't present for each other, but we usually present for like distributors or something. Try to pitch the product.
Yeah, yes. Java?
Inside the company a lot, outside the company I had a few presentations or meetups, talks.
Okay, because I found that this is also a good way to learn, both teach and learn, I think. Yeah. Any questions from the audience? Any questions from you, from the others, maybe? No? Okay, then move along. There's this kind of myth between developers called the zone. When you concentrate to certain tasks, a certain hard tasks, and you can move forward in a faster pace. Do you believe in such a thing, or how do you achieve that in your work environment? So I imagine in more an open office kind of environment, it's harder to concentrate to certain tasks, right?
I can agree. To start, an agency, and we are working in a big open office. We have 2 floors, but still 50 people are working on one level. So I believe in the zone. I call it the flow. So basically, when I start working, I almost forget about everything else and concentrate on one task. And I really don't like when I'm being interrupted and I'm moving out of the flow. But as a tech leader, a manager, or leader, I'm not just me, but obviously every day I was doing management or leading work. We have to, get used to interruptions. So it's hard to manage it. Time management, I think, is very crucial for senior and leading developers. but still in an open environment you can use your headphones to close out the other music or noises and other stuff. You can use the time management stuff. You can delegate or prioritize your task and focus on what's most important. At that point, there are a lot of studies on that. Yes, but I believe in the zone or flow, and I like when I'm really working in a focused way.
Do you have a particular music you like to listen to, or white noise or what?
White noise, no. And actually, I'm also kind of disrupted by music, so that's sucks for me. But yeah, yes, I don't have any special flow music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can vouch for that in some instances. But I actually found that music without lyrics is quite good to concentrate. But when there's a lyric, then yeah, you cannot really. Yeah, Bence, how do you find it? Do you believe in the zone?
I also believe, but it's like when I moved to Skyscanner, it was much harder for me to achieve. Mostly because you have to be conscious of like how you organize your meetings and when you schedule a certain thing and when you have to push back, like reschedule a meeting with someone else, maybe multiple people. So it can get harder to like get into the flow for like 2 to 3 hours and really just focus and get done. But yeah, I also use use music for kind of more monotonous work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, without lyrics, it's better.
Yeah. How many meetings do you have in a week?
It depends on a day. Mostly on Thursdays, I have more than 4, which lasts more than an hour, or at least an hour.
But at least they are in the same.
So at most an hour. Yeah, but not every day. So Tuesdays, Wednesdays, a lot better.
Chaba, do you have meetings?
Yes, I also have lots of meetings, and sometimes I also have 4 a day, and I don't think I have a day when I don't have a meeting, but as a tech lead I have to Tuesday.
Yeah, Bence and Laszlo, I guess you don't really have that much meetings, but do you find times to concentrate? Do you believe in the zone?
Yeah, I do. Thing is, yeah. So
Yeah,
we have like.
Sorry, actually, do you work alone? Actually?
No, we work in the same room.
Same room, huh?
Yeah. So we have some company, but also we don't disrupt each other. The thing is, we sometimes just can't get into the flow because we're also doing the customer support, invoicing, and the other stuff. And so if the trick is like if I just quit my email app and mute my phone and flip it over, I can do that. Like I can really get into. And if we really need to get something done, that's what we usually do. Because otherwise, sometimes just like all the interrupts from everywhere else and very good questions for our kind customers can really take the whole day. So I think that's the challenging part for us.
You actually deal with the customers yourself?
Yeah. If they have a problem, which they usually do, like some people, because you have to install the product in
some more technical problems, right?
Yeah, it's more of it's not usually not with the app. Sometimes you get some bug reports, but yeah.
How many countries are you in?
So we basically try to sell anywhere we can. I would say most of our the devices we sold went abroad. Like probably 30% is to Hungary only, and it's mostly US and Australia.
You sell online mostly or online?
Yeah.
So you have to deal with people from different countries, different languages even, or?
Yeah, mostly English. Only English, I would say.
I see. Laszlo, I guess you don't do meetings, but?
Sometimes I have a meeting.
Where do you work? From home or from a cafe or?
Currently I have a bigger project and their office is 1 minute walk away from my flat, so I usually go into the office because there are the iOS developer and the full stack developer, and it's easier to work together if I am there.
You have colleagues?
Yeah. Actually, we haven't work time, and everybody's a freelancer, so we can go home, and I don't see the full stack developer 1 week or I don't know how many days ago. But it exists and working, but I don't know where. So when I am in the office, I usually do the boring work, because if you wrote 1000 recycle view, when you have to write one more, it's really easy, and we are listening radio or something, and just or I watching a movie during this. And if I want to really concentrate, and actually I know that the flow exists because I have a trick and I can go in instantly. If I have to drink 2 or 3 Red Bull energy drinks or 5 coffees, and after I have to put Hungarian folk music like this really trash MC over or other, and it's really shame, but it's working for me. So I go instant to flow, and I can go. I can do everything.
Wow, that's very, very nice. Actually, do you have experiences in other kind of companies? I'm interested in that. You can go from there. Do you work for a product company or startup or any other kind of?
I was actually a freelancer before joining Supercharge, so yes, I know the Laszlo's experience. I mean, I'm familiar with the experience, and it's totally different to work with a big team than to work by yourself. So basically that's it.
Yeah, because the differences are that I'm mostly interested in. So, were there a kind of culture shock when you joined the Supercharge, or?
Yeah, of course. So, there are a lot of people. You have to meet a lot of people and get to know a lot of people. And sometimes it's shocking that they all know each other and you don't know anybody else, and you are just sitting in the corner trying to figure out how to get into the team. But actually it was a very welcoming environment, so I could join very easily. And after 1 or 2 weeks, I already feel like being home.
Going back to you for a bit, actually I imagine you do have some meetings with the clients, right? How do you deal with that?
It's easy because so usually we are just talking on chat, or I have a phone call or something. Currently with the bigger project we have a meeting in every Friday, but I'm free. Before I went to freelancer, I worked at an agency company. And we had a lot of meetings, and I worked with juniors and interesting clients. I guess the biggest and the best part of the change that I have time to everything what I want. So because I haven't working time, or I don't need to count the holiday days, or every people in Hungary have 20 days in a year. I have I don't know how many. So currently I will go for 3 weeks to Vietnam or something. Nobody cares. But what I see that after the change, my work-life balance went to stabilize. I mean, from this time I feel much better, and I have time to go to gym every week. I know I have to give more attention to the food, but I have time to go to the gym. I have aquarium time, and I don't always sitting at the computer and coding. So I think it's better.
Yeah, Bence, have you worked for other companies?
Yeah, I have. One of them was a huge multinational product company. It was a lot different, and I didn't like it that much either, because it was just not a great team after all. So it didn't work that well, and there was not a lot to do either, like in terms of work. So this is much better in this sense.
Before I joined Skyscanner, I worked for an agency which was actually shipping apps for or software for startups, so it was the best of both worlds. I didn't really enjoy it, to be honest. It's not, I'm heavily biased.
What was the actual downsides?
Lack of processes, mostly lack of senior engineers. That might just be that specific to that company. Mostly these two.
I see. Okay, any questions from the audience? Yes, go
So
ahead.
I think you guys almost all mentioned working in a group, and I think most of you work in multinational environments. So how do you feel compared to working with Hungarian colleagues with multinational or different? And is there like a, I don't know, like a barrier that you feel when it is working with a remote colleague, or like from a different nationality, cultural differences, different to a Hungarian guy?
Yeah, I have some thoughts to this. So, one of the companies I worked for, this product company, there you couldn't use like video for chatting with the remote colleague. It was horrible, like it didn't make sense because everyone was just on his phone, and the like meetings were like no one had a clue what was going on. At another one, there was like this video chat kind of thing with the life size. I don't know if you know that, but it was, and the
You
meeting
just
room was.
changed from life size to Teams because life size is very bad.
Okay, but the point which was good is like the meeting rooms were aligned like that the table was at the camera, so like you could really kind of feel that the other guys are sitting at the other end of the table. It made a huge difference. Like there, I never felt like it's hindering in any way. The other company without video, it's just not productive.
So we have a London office, as Raj mentioned, and we found out that there are big cultural differences between us Hungarians and British guys. So it was kind of hard when we started. We basically misunderstood each other. They always assumed for some reason that they are kind of attacking communication way, but actually they weren't. So it's hard to communicate with people with other cultures, and we have to understand their point of view as well. Yes, and also remote work and remote chatting is hard. I agree with the video that helps a lot, so that you don't speak into a static avatar, but you actually see the other guy and his or her emotions on your face and everything. So it's much better. And and I also believe in real FaceTime, or real life meetings. So even if you use the video, sometimes you should just meet physically and connect there. So at that point, I felt that now I think I really understand that person.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes very hard. I also work for an international company, headquartered in the US actually, but offices in different countries. And I also found that there are some quite big cultural differences. We mostly work with US guys, and for example, the first big barrier is the time difference. It's 6 hours of a difference, so it's not that easy. For London, I think that's not that big of a problem. But also, they have sometimes different words for different. For measuring the success, for example. For the US guys, the worst thing they can say is mostly great. So when they say it's great, that means it's not that good.
Go ahead.
No, just.
So we have, I believe, 11 offices around the world, even in Singapore, Shenzhen, a lot of places in Europe, Barcelona, UK obviously. And to be honest, I've never really felt that would be a barrier. And I also enjoy working in multinational environments. And I know that there are cultural differences, and I think everyone is aware of that. But the Skyscanner cultural values kind of override a lot of behaviors, and that's great. and I really enjoyed getting to know people from even Singapore.
Yeah, that's also an interesting part. I was mainly joking before because I don't want to paint that much of a green picture. Because on the other hand, we can concentrate. I think we have strengths in different things. We also have offices in Singapore, but not that much engineers. But for example, we have German engineers, and they can really work in a different manner. And even the US guys, I was really joking about the great thing because they have different strengths. So I think it's a good thing to be able to share knowledge between the countries also and get to know them. That's all.
I worked with a few companies in the USA, mostly startups, and I like the American people because great, I like it, nice. I guess that their expectation were smaller in the USA, so I was there the big star Android developer because a few trivial things. So I don't really know. Maybe just because there was a startup, and there was a better situation when I worked on a Disney project. This was a Tinder application with a Disney Channel series and shows. And
I heard it right.
Yeah. This was the code name of the project because the cards and swiping. So this was the company in Amsterdam, and when they found own developer, and I traveled there to move the project to the new developer. This was funny in Amsterdam.
Yeah. Other questions? I have some quick ones. What do you use for source handling and management and repositories? Git, everyone? Or yeah, okay. Okay, then maybe some more interesting ones. Light theme or dark theme on the IDEs?
Dark.
The dark side's here only. Okay. Okay, then tabs or spaces? Or
Spaces.
How many?
your question?
Spaces.
Spaces, okay. We have the dark side from the space, okay. That's nice. Kotlin or Java?
Well, not both.
Yes,
No.
that's a good answer.
Like obviously Java first.
Kotlin.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience, maybe? Or do you have some questions from each other? Yes, okay, then I think we can wrap up this first part. We will have a short break where you can obviously ask questions to them or to each other and use it for networking or have some more food. It's still there in the corner, I think. And then we will be back after, I think, 15 minutes for the second part, which will be about technologies and design decisions. So thank you for your answers and your questions. So, yeah, thanks.
Okay, everyone. So this is the second section of the roundtable talk, and in this section of the talk, I'm supposed to ask about technological questions like would you choose navigation architecture components or activities and stuff like that. I might diverge from this because I have a few cards. Most of them don't have this question. I wanted to keep it slightly more abstract and more about software as is and development as is, and most importantly, what kind of pitfalls we can make and how we can avoid them as we are trying to create the best product we want, and yet we make a mistake that we don't foresee, and what consequences that would have and how to avoid them. So, because software in general, software, as we all know, as we are all developers, we write a lot of code. We write all these instructions, defining rules, conditionals, and over time it grows. It grows and then it gets bigger and bigger, and nobody sees what's going on anymore if you don't take the right steps. So in that regard, what's important to note is what strategies can we apply so that our code wouldn't grow to be unmaintainable? That's the first question. In general, like what are things you can take? For example, there are a few approaches, like in the developer community, people often talk about things like model view controller, model view presenter, model view model, model view intent, Redux, who knows? Which one would you choose? And what's even more important is, which one has burned you and you wouldn't choose anymore? Let's go from there first.
Okay, so I think previously we always choose the MVP architecture for all apps, and I think it was pretty much a standard in Android. But after it later adopted to the new MVVM model, actually I think before the Android framework team pushed it, and it worked really well for us. We also use data binding, so we don't have to write custom UI code binding the data into the UI. And we actually have two architectures. One is for bigger apps, and it's a Redux-based one-way data flow architecture, and on top of it there is MVVM, everything is reactive. And we have a smaller architecture for smaller, so more lightweight. There is no big Redux, there are only small services and MVVM on top of that. And we always try to choose, currently there are two, and we always try to choose which is the better for the app. So for MVP and MVC and MVVM, we have these two in our tools currently.
So the Skyscanner currently uses MVP architecture, as you said, because everyone was familiar with it and what was the most popular architecture for years on Android. And I think it's a great architecture. What we're doing at the moment is that we're trying to shift from this architecture to MVVM. Obviously, such an architectural shift requires a business case, and you have to sell this to upper management, which is not great, but if you manage to do that, and we did, we are currently trying to switch from, so we had clean architecture with MVP in the presentation layer, and we're trying to switch that to MVVM, mostly because the Google architectural patterns or architectural components has matured a lot. And you know, when you hire new people, you don't have to teach them like this is MVVM. Of course they know because they are Android developers, and that's what Google have taught them. Also, they provide the tooling, you don't have to build it yourself. And also all the nicest things. Some people wanted to bring in MVI, and we agreed that it might, the mentality that you have a single state representation, not per app but per screen, is a great idea, because then you have distinct states, and those states can have data. So that's where we are at the moment.
Something that I've seen just the other day, Ryan Harter wrote an article where he had multiple live data, they were all private, and he used a single mediator live data to combine all of them together and expose that as a single view state. So if you can create a single view state representation in MVVM, then would you need MVI on top?
No, I wouldn't say. It brings in a lot of complication because then you have to teach the Skyscanner specific stuff. That we use MVVM, but we use MVI as well, and in this case you have to do this, and you don't want to do that, I think. You want to keep things simple.
As simple as possible, because you have been developing this product for a long time, and you most likely will be developing this product for a long time. So I guess it's best to optimize for clarity, readability, and I guess
exactly. Yes.
I see. What about you, Theo?
So basically, we studied mobile apps with React Native, so we can have like a fast time to market. We thought it might not work out very well because you have to communicate with the hardware, use BLE libraries which are kind of famous to be not very good by React Native, so we're prepared to write the native code for that. Actually, I would say, like, after all, it did work out. So now we kind of like what we have. It costs like a little bit less effort to maintain, and with React Native, like, especially at the time we started, it was like pretty much a Redux Holy Bible, so that's what we use. And actually, we just migrated to the latest React Native like a month ago. So we were like lagging behind like probably a year because we never had the like time to put the effort into something that is not gonna make the product that much better. But there are like some points where you have to do that because things keep updating. So
I've been wondering, I've read somewhere that in the latest version of React Native, the live updating preview no longer works. Is that true?
I assume yes. For some other reason, we already stopped using it because it broke earlier.
Oh, wow.
So we basically just reload every time, or like hot reloading works. So that's what we usually use. Yeah.
Which architecture would you choose and which one would you not choose anymore?
It's a hard question because currently I can say I'm using MVI, but the presentation layer is a view model class from Google architecture components. I used previous the Mosby library. This was the first MVI library, but I don't like because this is a black box, and when you start to use an external architecture solution like Mosby, or there are a lot of other for MVI or MVVM with data flow and unidirectional data flow and reactive stream and other things, you don't know what's happening inside your code. And when you write your own solution with the using of the Google architecture components or anything else, but when you write it, you will understand what's going on. And this is the most important, I guess. So after it, you can increase and evaluate the code. So currently, I'm, as I said, I'm using FVI, but and the main cause is that because I like the view state, which is the core concept of the MVI. The problem is with this that people would like to represent the whole screen with one view state, and everybody sees this is problematic because if you have a error attribute variable in the view state, and which part of the screen contains belongs this error. So if you have a list, a title, a few other text views, which is the error. And the solution, I guess, which my currently favorite solution is from the Badu. There is a MVI core solution, and there are a few Hungarian guys, or at least one, Zsolt Kocsis, who are maintaining this repository, and I guess this is the current best solution for the architecture because they solved everything which was problematic in the previous MVI solutions, like single events for show toast or snack bars or every error thing. You can use a time travel debugger, so you can save the changing view states, and I mean you can record and you can replay or go back or go forward. So this is the best solution, I guess. Now yesterday I implemented a new. So in my main project, currently we have 50 screens or somewhere there, and half of them are using the base controller class as a parent class, half of them using the base controller X class, and there are 2 screens which are using the new base fragment as parent. So I created a new solution which solves the single events and the state saving. So MBI, my favorite solution. And I saw the Twitter post and the article that you mentioned, and when I read it, I felt that this is MBI because you combine the different streams, and the result is a view state.
On the other hand, it's still MVVM in the way that it's using live data. And
Like if you are using live data, it's MVVM.
I guess not. Okay. I think the main difference there is the way the view communicates with the view model, because in MBI you define objects that represent your action, and in the case of MVVM you don't really do that with a single interface.
It's an interesting question, but because what is the view? The
That's
fragment is a controller or yeah.
That's actually one of the best questions. I think we should inherit that as a question and ask everyone. In your architecture, what is the view?
So for us, the view is basically the fragment is the view, the activity is the view, and also the views are still views, and everything below that are view models, and below that are some services or actions, stores. This is how we approach it.
For MVP, the view is the fragments interface, which doesn't contain any Android or any library-specific classes, whatnots. For MVVM, it's the same, but you don't need the interface for the fragment from a view model's point of view because the view model doesn't have a reference to the view.
For React Native, this tricky question.
Yeah, you guys have results and you're observing the state store, and
Yeah.
technically in a way that's MVVM-ish, but global state for everyone.
It's global state.
But on the other hand, it's more like MVI. In fact, MVI is partly based on Redux, because that's where they got the idea that they should create classes that represent your intents, which are technically the user actions, and emit them in a single stream. Yeah, like that. Okay, so that was actually a trick question in a way, because it's been an ongoing debate that there's a chance that the activity and the fragment are actually controllers. In fact, even the Android view class is a controller. It's the view controller. So if that is the controller, then where would be the view? What are your thoughts on this idea?
I don't care how you name it. For us, it is the view. We basically don't write too much code in the fragments or activities. Most of our fragments are basically containing one line, which is this is my layout and that's it, and also template parameter that this is my view model. So I think our architecture, this is actually true that the fragment is the view, or the fragment is the controller who is creating its layout.
It's easy if you are using data binding.
Yes, we actually do, but you can also do manual data binding. Then you have to do some plumbing code, but so I don't really care about how you call it. I care about how if it's working or not.
Agreed.
Perfectly reasonable. Okay, I guess we are shifting more towards technology decisions more than general things. But as such, I would like to ask: would you, in 2019, would you rather choose RX Java or coroutines or live data?
So we have very big, we have bigger projects, I would say, that are longer running projects, and we started that before coroutines. Actually, we still are because all it was being known. So yes, we are using RX Java. Actually, we invested a lot of to know and get better in RX Java. Personally, I like RX Java very well, and I don't see at this point why coroutines are so much better. But yeah, I also see the advantages. But our current projects are using RX Java, and our new but smaller projects, we can use coroutines as well. So choose what's best for you and don't try to just change your whole architecture because there is a new types and this thing is coming.
Interesting question. So where should I start? So okay, first Orange Java. So as we all know, it has been like the go-to choice for representing promises coming back from the network calls, but anything that's async. And it was the go-to choice for Skyscanner as well. And the way we work is that we have to justify every major technological change with a design review. And that's basically, you come up with an idea, you have to come up with the advantages, the disadvantages, and then you have to sell that to other engineers, and they review your work. And we had a design review for coroutines for numerous reasons. To replace RxJava basically as our go-to tool for asynchronous services. I know because I did it. And so what we're trying right now is to bring in and popularize coroutines, firstly for retrofit and HTTP calls, but then other parts of the application as well. And of course for the new architecture, we're trying to replace RxJava with live data, mostly because of the learning curve. And that's really important because at Skyscanner you have to scale the knowledge out for 100 plus developers, and that's not easy. And you know, RxJava is famous for its learning curve. So
I think
React Native,
it's probably not a question for me.
actually, in that aspect, shifting the question to React Native, do you use RxJS or do you not see its value?
No, we don't. No. We use, basically we use the Redux trunk and do most of the background things there.
Oh yeah, in that case I will ask, have you ever considered using sagas, and if not, why not?
Actually not, because honestly we never really checked it out. So
Understandable.
Currently I'm using RxJava, but I don't really like it because the learning curve, and I have a few practices but I'm using it, so not only for HTTP calls, but because the MVI I have reactive streams and flows, so I use it, but I will change it to coroutines if coroutines will be stable in the Kotlin native. Because the current plan is that I will try to change to Kotlin native where I can. And I don't know, maybe there are other solutions for reactive async stuff in Kotlin native, but currently I guess the best is coroutines.
Makes perfect sense. In that case, I will ask the following. Have you ever used Rx binding to represent asynchronous events coming from the user or the user interface? If yes, did you get any benefits out of it? And if not, did you have to remove it? And what was your process, if so?
I think we used it before data binding, but since data binding we are using data binding, and it's, I think it's a better choice for syncing the view and your data.
I think we only use it for one thing only, which is debouncing from text view, auto suggest. So yeah, that was the only use case so far, I think.
Wait, we don't have that.
Sorry.
Sorry.
My big project contains the Rx binding, but I believe I use it only on one screen and I will destroy it. So this project was made by another developer company and I continue it. So I will destroy it because currently I use a public subject to send events or actions or wishes from the UI together. I try to avoid every external dependency as I can, but there are a lot of. But I think it's not necessary.
Makes sense. I will go back to the React Native world because I'm slightly curious. How do you solve debouncing with Redux? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's very tricky.
Yes, it is.
I think it's one of the hardest parts, and actually, like, we are not very good at it right now because, like, we do have a lot of renders which are very unnecessary, and but since the user experience is not affected yet, we have focused on other things. But once we have to figure it out and optimize a little bit, that's gonna be like a horrible task. Like, we will probably need like some serious changes, because like I remember once we tried it, and we put like 6 hours of effort into like trying out and to reduce the number of renders and everything, and it was just way too much. Like because like so many like subtle things can cause your view to re-render, like stupid things like how you pass the functions and stuff. It's just a lot of work. Like my suggestion is like if you plan to do a React Native project, like try to pay attention to that from the very beginning. That way it's okay. But if you have to fix it like retrospectively, I think that's pretty bad.
Thank you very much for the info. I will shift more towards automated testing. As the software we develop grows more and more complex, manual testing can take a crazy amount of time. You either hire more and more QA people who will hopefully write automated tests. I actually have worked in an agency, and right now kind of as a freelancer, so I haven't worked at a big company. I have not worked as a QA person, so I do not know how much they need to manually test and how much they need to automate test. But that's beside the point. The important point is what is the scale at which you see that this should be tested automatically to verify that this works, so that you don't have to go back and test every edge case. In fact, when does the documentation of these cases happen, and whose responsibility is it to ensure that these are tested automatically? You first, I think.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Okay. So at Skyscanner we don't have QA teams. That's because we have a really important principle brought from Amazon directly, and that's you build it, you run it. So as a squad, you are responsible for the features you put out into production, and as you are responsible for putting them into production, you are obviously feel responsible for testing it, otherwise you cannot make guarantees. Also, how do you guarantee that there will be no modifications that other teams things? So yeah, you said where we draw the line between automated. Yeah, with manual tests we try to only do like happy path testing and see if the feature is healthy and is working well, and everything else we try to cover with automated tests, mostly for unit tests, because if we have the architecture to make literally almost the entire flow unit testable, then that's great, because what you're not testing is the hacky UI part and like how you assemble a UI, but the core logic, and that is unit testing. Okay, obviously, or other than that, we have UI tests and we have the framework for that, but it's much less common for us.
I couldn't agree more. We also choose not to test too much UI because it was very hard to maintain the UI test. They always break for no reason. Also, sometimes we get false positives. So currently we are unit testing everything below the UI. We are unit testing the view models and also our actions and stores and services. And also we are doing some integration testing to make sure everything is working together as well. But we also have a QA team, and we are doing the manual testing and trying to catch everything on the UI. So yes, I agree that we should test. About the scale, as an agency we have smaller projects, and I don't think that it is there's a time to write full test coverage on the smaller projects. So I think for 2 or 3 months long projects you can just go with manual QA, and also if you basically just try to write good code and code reviews, try to catch bugs. So this is not a contesting.
For us, it's basically we have unit tests, but nothing beyond that point, because it's also due to the hardware itself. Like it's best if we actually test it with the real hardware and not write some emulation of how the hardware would respond, because then it would take up more effort. So basically, we have a lot of manual testing for each release. Probably, I mean, not a lot, but it probably takes like 2 hours per release to like go through some basic things that most of the customers would do, and for the rest, we are like at the moment we're fine with that.
I have nearly 0 experience with testing, with automatic testing, because I have a lot of one-shot projects. I write it, I publish it, and that's it. And nobody cares about the bugs and any other things. I would like to write tests actually, because I see the advantages, but I plan in the big project that we will start write test. Currently we haven't. We have a half-time manual tester guy, and he's good. And after that, we try to filter the bugs, and after the customer's feedbacks, we are preparing stuff. But the software is working. We don't know about any bugs currently in the big projects, so this is good.
Question,
Yes.
So to the guys who have QA, how do you handle reports like it's not working like on iOS?
Yes, so our internal QA team is very good. So they know how to write good bug reports. You have templates for them, and also we are sitting together and we can talk about everything. So for our internal QA reports are very good, and actually if they find something that is not working, actually this is true, and we can reproduce it and then fix it. Of course, from clients, sometimes it is harder. We're trying to teach the clients the same templates and best practices that we teach to our internal teams. Sometimes it's working, sometimes not. But the clients, they are paying us, so we have to guard it down.
Okay.
Actually, I have a question too. So you, Bence from Skyscanner, you mentioned that you have reviews when you apply new technology. When
Yes.
you want to apply new technology. I'm interested how the other guys do this. How do you have or introduce a new kind of technology in your code?
This is my decision, so
But you do it gradually or at once?
No, I check on the Reddit or any other article in Medium. After it, I try it in a sample project if it's necessary for me to the project. But if not, I don't care about this.
We talk about it over lunch. and usually I just try it out in a dummy project and see if it's really worth it. If it's not, then we usually drop it.
So as I said, we have workshops, so sometimes we introduce new concepts and teach that to the whole team. And also for us the best point to introduce new technology is that when we are doing a new project. As an agency we have lots of projects and we have the chance to actually try everything out. And on the smaller projects we can. Basically we are always up to date. Not always, but almost up to date with the latest technologies in our smaller projects. Of course, on the longer projects, we cannot change just everything because that would be insane.
There was another question.
Yeah. What about the crash detection, or how do you handle the user crash?
We use Crashlytics. It's monitored by the team who manages the releases, and at the moment they are responsible for getting teams to fix them and like pressure them with the urgency. We try to automate this, so we have, I believe, an internal tool which will automatically pass crashes and whatnots to individual teams based on where the crash happened, based on what module. So yeah, that's how we do it.
Actually, currently I talk a lot about my big project because the others are really small and okay. So currently my application is not crashing because I mean it's fine because it's built on MVI and everything is reactive streams and I have the errors. So mainly the feature is not working because the error node, but it's not crashing. So the user won't see the application is crashing and close. But yeah, I'm using Crashlytics and I check the reports. I mean, I'm logging the exceptions and everything, and I can see it.
Yes, we also use Crashlytics, and we also try to attach metadata to discover or get what's happening actually. We try to attach breadcrumbs, analytics data, user data, of course anonymize, and then yes, we have reports and try to fix the most prominent crashes.
With React Native, like most of your crashes come from the JavaScript, and that's very bad because like you have a minified JavaScript running.
Okay.
So like whatever report you get is like undefined is not an object at B in C in D at A at E. So that's why you get usually. So we try to put as much metadata as we can, and there are some things that don't get minified. So you can use them to like mark important events or mark like important points in code. And that's how we like try to locate the issues. But for now we are mostly relying on like user description, how to reproduce the crash.
I have a question actually about regarding minification. So on Android, are you using programmed R8 to obfuscate the code?
Yes, it's part of our production standards.
Sometimes.
And Prograd or R8?
R8. We just migrated to R8 a few months ago.
Do you have any headaches because of it?
Yes, we had a really nasty production crash in our export feature, and it was basically that R8 was messing up with enums. I don't know the details specifically, but as far as I know, R8 doesn't like enums to this day. So. But yeah, the advantages were far more bigger, so smaller app size. Yeah.
So how did you resolve that it had a problem with enums? Did you swap it out with int depths instead, or what happened?
Yeah, I think it was replacing enums with, I don't know, seal classes probably. I have no idea.
Yeah,
The team solved it. But it was like the user impact was actually like I don't know, 0.9% of the users who got into that flow received this crash. So it wasn't like a huge crash, but obviously we needed to tackle it. But other than that, no F-ups.
Any other questions from the audience?
I have one.
Okay.
Many of the developers work together with the marketing or finance or the other part of the company. And did someone expect some similar, like when the other part of the company won't affect the technological decisions? Like when before the change, some new technology or whatever?
So could you repeat, please?
Yes, so someone expect some similar situation when the marketing person wanted affect the decision about the new technology or some improvement in the architecture.
No, they obviously don't have the like
Knowledge.
not knowledge to have a voice or opinion in those kind of decisions. What we do though is that at stand-ups we take a look at our dashboards, how our services are doing and how our features are doing. And marketing and product and design people take a look at those because they are interested in it, because we are like, I mean, a startup. We do this together and we are all responsible for this, and they are genuinely interested in like how our services are doing, for example. So that's the only thing I can mention.
And then someone other in the other type of organization, like in a startup or very different.
I think it's more relevant to the agency, not relevant to the company. Because there is no marketing value at a product company that we are using Kotlin or Asia or something, but to agency there is.
Yes, so actually at the start of the project we sometimes sit down with the client and figure out the budget, and based on that we sometimes choose the technology. For example, some clients doesn't have the money to pay for two native projects, and they can then offer a cross-platform solution, usually React Native. So yes, they can they actually decide or reflect the technology, but besides that, the details are for us, decided by developers and not marketing or business people at the project at least.
Are there clients who want a specific technology?
Actually, yes. So sometimes they hear that, okay, Flutter is very good. I read an article and we didn't Flutter, and yes, we sometimes say that okay, we can do it because we are interested as well. But sometimes sometimes we try to push them to the right direction, as we see as the right direction. Yes.
Isn't this more common in the backend? Like they say, hey, we have this cloud infrastructure. It's not really that common in the mobile. They say, hey, I want Amazon because I'm with Amazon already. Hey, I want Google.
I can see, but I mostly see the mobile projects.
I think the most common is that we want a mobile application, but I say, no, you don't want it. Because the optimized web page is totally enough.
Yeah, that's also true.
I've actually, as previously mentioned, worked at an agency, and we did receive requests saying that, hey, we want this app and we want it in Xamarin Forms. And we're like, really, why? And they said that they want to maintain it in the future, they just don't have the time right now. We did not get the project, and I think we're better off. However, technically I guess this can actually happen. Okay, next question though. Lately it's been rather popular to, instead of using a single app module for your project, you end up, you create a modular project, like composed of multiple modules. It's actually, people cannot really decide if they should modularize by layers or if by features. And each of them has a benefit and a disadvantage. To separate them by feature, then suppose the navigation can get trickier. But if you modularize by layers, then well, that won't really help if you want to use dynamic feature modules. So my question is, what is your approach? Would you think that modularization is important for build speed or component reuse or what else? And let's start from there, for example.
Yes, we do modularize our projects. I think it started 2 years ago when we started to build big projects and they were componentally solely. So first we only thought about the build speed, but you said that there are two approaches, modularized by layer or by feature. We actually do a mix of them. So yes, you mentioned navigation and some other things. The navigation in our architecture is one module because you have to access it from anywhere and it is easier. Also our data layer or more is one module basically. But for the other features, the UI and view model are split by feature. So we have a mixed architecture and it works very well for us. And also the build speed is now much better And I also think about how you organize your projects, because if you have different modules, you cannot just write code here and access it there, which you cannot do X. You have to work at the module that you're supposed to work in.
Yeah, the Skyscanner app was a single module until last year when we started modularizing it and detangling everything what we call the legacy module. We named it legacy so people don't put code into it and are supposed to write new modules. We are now at like 30-40 modules, and what we do is we modularize by feature and by layer as well, which is required in our situation, I believe. Also, what's great for us in terms of like the advantages of modularization is that obviously when you have one huge spaghetti and you pitch that you should rewrite the huge spaghetti, obviously management won't want to write it. Now, if you have small spaghetti, many small spaghettis, you can rewrite by small spaghetti. But other than rewrites, I think what's more important to us is that squads own these modules, and it's more important to us to have clear defined ownerships over modules, and those should have clear interfaces, because there were problems when the Skyscanner was a single module. The team who built the identity system on the client built a nice module with many internal stuff, and they built, they wrote the documentation that this is how you should access this. But of course, there were people who didn't read the documentation, because why? No, but seriously, how can you find a page of Confluence, obviously, so. So they didn't read the documentation, and they accessed internal stuff. Now when we figure out that there are many bugs because there's a technical debt in the inside of this module, and we wanted to rewrite it, or the team wanted to rewrite it, they realized people are depending on this. So yeah, dependency. So
we have like, of course, like the whole React Native is like a huge pile of modules, but like our own code is also separated actually in just two. But yeah, like because we wrote a Bluetooth driver and we wanted to separate it so we can use it for the future. So we put that in a like different module, both on Android and for the JavaScript part. So that's why it's nothing too exciting.
No, I'm actually slightly surprised. I thought that React Native it would be like one module, but I guess not.
It just made sense. Like for that particular like feature, it made sense to create a module that we can just install in future projects.
Yeah, it's a really good decision.
For the bigger projects, I'm using multi-modules. It's similar as Java because I'm using feature modules and I have a domain, I have a data module. I think it's a good approach because if you are using modules and the dependencies are strict, so there is no connection, for example, between the features. With these modules, you can improve your code because you can avoid the cross-references and the cross-dependencies between the classes, so you can increase the code quality. It's a little similar than when you start to learn where can you use the context in Android development. Because I saw a lot of code where they are using a context in a simple Kotlin Java module file because they are passed it in a method parameter, but there is an activity context, so when I destroy it, so
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a question. You mentioned the build time, so let's talk about the build time. What is your clean build and any build time, or what do you do until it is building? It's too long.
Yeah, so we modularize projects, so that's helping with incremental builds. Of course, actually it's worse for clean builds, but still. And we also introduced the remote gradle build cache. That's helping us because if we have more people on the projects, also CM machines, we can share the build output and actually use it. So for example, if somebody joining the projects and he or she never built it before, actually he or she doesn't have to because it's already there. And yeah, our build speeds are quite okay. I think under 2 minutes or 100,000 line of code, so it's quite okay. Yes, we are still fighting annotation processors and then the Methodologies in general, but I think that's a factor that he has to do nowadays.
So when I joined Skyscanner, the clean build time for the Android app was 25 seconds. Now we actually managed to
Seconds.
minutes.
It's amazing.
That would be amazing actually. So we managed to bring it down to 11 minutes at the moment using Gradle remote cache, modularization, and whatnot. We are now trying a few other tricks to bring it down, or I mean not the clean build time, but the incremental build time and the no build time into even 20 seconds or 5 seconds or 10, 5 to 20 seconds.
You actually had an article about that, right?
That was,
down the builds.
I think that was for iOS. So on iOS we needed much more trickier things, mainly because the openness of the platform and the tools there. One of our great engineers managed to solve build caching or third-party pod caching on iOS, and he wrote an article about it. That was a great achievement, I think. But we also used other tricks on iOS, so now on iOS we have a clean build time of 5 minutes.
We don't care about build time. You build once every 2 weeks.
I'm working also every cache on my computer, but I think so. Currently, I'm thinking that you are a better developer if you are writing more code without building and launching the application. So I try to measure the time, and I guess my personal record is more than 1 hour when I wrote a feature without launching it, and it's worked.
And no test.
First
run, it works. I've been told that there's time for one last question, and I will go with this one. I think this is a great last question. So, here's something very general. What do you enjoy most about developing software for the Android platform?
So what I like nowadays about Android, that I think the team have done a great work to improve the developer experience. For example, the architecture components are great, and the studio is better and better. Also, the build system is now, I think, much better than it was before. The emulator is much better than it was before. So I think currently, to be an Android developer is the best time. And if you join Android development now, you will have a much better experience than it was 5 or 6 years ago. And I don't know how many new Eclipse. So I think actually it's a fun thing to do Android development, and it's even funnier if you do Kotlin functions.
I couldn't agree more. So definitely the openness of the platform and how fast it's moving forward, but still not as JavaScript, for example. So keeping things rational, but still moving forward. I really like that Google is trying to please the community. So, for example, just one concrete example, they are trying to build RX wrappers for their own stuff. Obviously, Kotlin, my favorite programming language. Mostly to these.
Yeah, like me personally, I've built like a very few not even launched Android apps like 5 years ago, and when I started working on our app right now, what I saw the world has changed upside down. But I would say it's changed for the better to the extent that I know. Like it's not a very huge, like deep knowledge at this time. But I thought that the developer tools got much better, and like getting rid of Eclipse really pleased my eyes. So I assume it's probably better than before.
Definitely Eclipse. Deprecated 4 years ago. Some people still ask, can I use it? No.
I can compare only with Apple and iOS because I'm a multi-platform developer, but I don't really like or hate Apple because first the Xcode. This is a terrible idea to develop everything. So yeah, the Swift language is good. Compared with the Kotlin, it's really similar, and there are a lot of good things. But if you check the tools what Google provide to the developers, like the support libraries, architectural components, and every other things, and at the latest, what is this Apple? Not I/O, but Keynote, or at the big conference.
WWDC.
Yeah. They announced this new UI solution and everything else. I don't know.
And you also got Jetpack Compose and
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you try the Apple, you see my opinion. I like Google and Android. Oh, I know Google is a little evil guy on the market, but it's better than Apple.
Yeah. Actually, we are now facing a very sad time when we'll have to migrate things to this Android X because it's just not there in some of the dependencies we use, and then we would have to like
PHP.
yeah. But it's not enough. Like sometimes it's just like it's not that simple for you.
Yeah.
And that was actually the last question from me and the end of this session. So thank you very much for your time. I will give the
mic.
Yeah, the mic. There is the mic. But I will give the opportunity back to Gerlei Balázs to handle the outro.
Yeah, thanks. So thanks for all of you to come, and for our fine panelists for the conversation and the interesting insights you gave to us. I think there's many more questions which arise, and they told me that they stay for a while, and you can ask your questions if you want directly to them, or just use the time for networking for a bit. Yeah, and I would also like to thank again our fine sponsors, Bitrise and Skyscanner. We can thank them for the food and drinks. Yes, and also let's not forget about Host, High Five Pub. This is a very good place. I think you all agree that this was a fine experience here. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you, and we will have our next event in 2 months, so in September. See you then. Thanks.
And there's actually one more thing, which was never actually mentioned to anyone. There's a giveaway, and we couldn't really decide what to base it on. So the question is, who wants this book the most? This is from Ray Vanderlip, Android Apprentice, first edition, beginning Android development with Kotlin 1.2. The person who wants it most will get it. No jokes, like if you're the first, then you will get it. Here you go!